In 1841, Solomon Northup, an African-American man enjoying freedom, earns his living as a proficient carpenter and fiddle player in Saratoga Springs, New York, alongside his wife and 2 children. However, his life takes a drastic turn when he accepts a short-term musical opportunity from 2 individuals. Instead of a brief job, they betray him, drugging him and leading to his horrifying awakening in shackles, on the brink of being sold into slavery. Northup is transported to New Orleans, where his identity is forcibly changed to Platt, mirroring that of a fugitive slave from Georgia. Enduring frequent beatings, he eventually falls into the possession of plantation owner William Ford. Despite the harsh circumstances, Northup maintains a positive relationship with Ford, who proves to be a relatively compassionate master. Displaying his resourcefulness, Northup devises an efficient log transportation system, earning him Ford's appreciation, symbolized by a gifted violin. However, tensions escalate when fellow carpenter John Tibeats harbors resentment towards Northup and initiates verbal harassment. The conflict between Tibeats and Northup intensifies as Tibeats initiates an attack, prompting Northup to defend himself. In response, Tibeats and his associates try to hang Northup, subjecting him to hours of agony in the noose. To prevent Northup's death, Ford intervenes, deciding to sell him to Edwin Epps. Despite Northup's pleas, explaining his rightful freedom, Ford dismisses his claims, asserting that Northup must fulfill the debt owed on his purchase price. Epps feels that the Bible gives him permission to mistreat his slaves. Slaves are subject to beatings if they do not harvest 200 pounds of cotton per day. Every day, Patsy, the young female slave, lifts more than 500 pounds, and Epps lavishly praises her while simultaneously frequently abusing her sexually. She is constantly attacked and humiliated by Epps's wife, who is jealous of her. As Epps persists in abusing Patsy sexually, the abuse gets worse. Patsy begs Northup to murder her because she wants to die, but he refuses. After a while, Epps' plantation has a cotton worm outbreak. He concludes that the new slaves are to blame and that the plague was sent by God. For the season, he leases them to a nearby plantation. While there, Northup wins the plantation owner's favor by playing the fiddle at a celebration of a wedding anniversary, for which he receives a coin. Upon his return to Epps, Northup tries to use the money to pay a former overseer and white field hand to mail a letter to his friends in New York. While accepting the money and agreeing to deliver the letter, the field worker betrays Northup. Northup just manages to persuade Epps that the story isn't true. Northup, seeing the letter as his sole chance at freedom, tersely burns it. Northup joins forces with a Canadian laborer named Bass to build a gazebo on the plantation. Bass incurs Epps' disapproval by openly opposing slavery and attempting to persuade Epps to show some empathy towards those laboring for him. However, Epps vehemently rejects Bass's perspective, viewing his workers not as individuals but as mere possessions, his possessions. One day, Epps flies into a rage upon discovering Patsy's absence from his plantation. Upon her return, Patsy explains that she had left to obtain a bar of soap from Mistress Shaw, having fallen ill from her own odor due to being denied soap by Mary Epps. Despite her explanation, Epps doubts her and commands for her to be stripped and bound to a post. Egged on by his wife, Epps compels Northup to administer a whipping to Patsy. Reluctantly, Northup complies, but Epps eventually wrests the whip from him, subjecting Patsy to a brutal and merciless lashing. While working on the gazebo, he confides in Bass about his abduction. Once again, Northup implores Bass for assistance in sending a letter to Saratoga Springs. Despite the risks, Bass agrees to help. One day, the local sheriff summons Northup, arriving with another man in a carriage. The sheriff quizzes Northup, verifying details about his life in New York. Northup recognizes the sheriff's companion as a shopkeeper from Saratoga. This man has come to free him, and they share an emotional embrace. Despite Epps' resistance and Patsy's distress, Northup leaves immediately. After enduring 12 years of enslavement, Northup regains his freedom and reunites with his family. Walking into his home, he is greeted by his entire family, including his daughter, who presents him with his grandson and namesake. The closing credits highlight Northup's unsuccessful attempts, along with his legal team, to prosecute those responsible for his enslavement. Additionally, they note the lingering mystery surrounding Northup's death and burial. The movie ends here. Click the bottom to subscribe.